is Sarah and welcome to my channel, Rainy Day Crochet. Today I'm going to show you how to make a Bobble mug cozy. They have one right here. I think that these are really cute and they kind of just add, you know, a little fun to your everyday mug, especially since a lot of us are at home a lot of the time now. I thought that having, you know, something to mix up your mug every day might bring a little bit of brightness to your mornings or your nights whenever you drink your tea or coffee or hot chocolate or whatever warm beverage of your choice. This is a really simple pattern and it's great for beginner crocheters or people who want just a quick weekend project or evening project. It took me about 30 minutes to make one. I do have a written pattern for this project. It's my first written pattern, so go easy. But that will be posted on Ravelry. It is a free pattern, so an even better reason to try this out yourself. Very quick and very affordable, especially since you can use scrap yarn that you have laying around. If you decide to do this project yourself, make sure to tag me in any photos that you post on Instagram at _rainydaycrochet. You can also find my Ravelry page. It's Rainy Day Crochet 1, and I'll have all the links down below. The hook, the yarn, the pattern, everything will be down below that you need. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so to make the mug cozy, you're going to need a few materials. So first off, obviously you'll need some yarn. This is Karen 1 pound yarn in Sunflower. I also made it in this soft gray mix, so that's what that looks like. You can use any worsted weight, so category 4 yarn that you want. That'll work perfectly fine. And this is a great project also if you have some leftover yarn from another project. You'll need a crochet hook. I'm using a USH 5mm hook, but you can use whatever hook works for your yarn that you're using. You'll need a yarn needle. You'll need scissors. Most importantly, you'll need a mug. This is a mug that I got from Vancouver, Canada when I visited a few years ago. Now, the other important thing to notice about the mug that you choose is the handle. So you want a mug that has space on the top and the bottom so that when you slip the mug cozy on, it actually has space to sit there. I know there are some that have the handle that go all the way down to the bottom. It's not ideal for this kind of mug cozy, so I would recommend a mug that has space on the top and bottom for the cozy to sit. I also have a measuring tape here, but it's not necessary, and I'll kind of walk you through why you might need this in just a little bit. So to start the mug cozy, you're just going to start with a slip stitch. The way I make my slip stitch is I drape the yarn over 2 fingers, wrap it around, come through the back, push up a loop, and then pull tight. Then I'll transfer that to my crochet hook and tighten that as well. Now the pattern mentions that I chain 34 stitches to begin with, and that's going to depend on the size of your mug. So one way that you can do it is you can take a tape measure and measure all the way around. So I know my mug measures 10 inches around, or I don't know what that would be in centimeters, but I know my mug measures 10 inches around. So you can measure it with a tape measure. The other way that you can do it, if you don't have a tape measure or you don't want to get up and get one, is you can just chain a certain amount and kind of measure as you go and see if it fits around this section of the mug at the top or at the bottom. So you can do it either way. You can use a tape measure, or you can just chain and measure with the number of chains how many you need to fit around the mug. Now, one thing to keep in mind that is mentioned in the pattern is that you want to chain a number that is a multiple of 3 plus 7. Now let me explain what I mean by that. So I'm going to chain 34. Now 34 minus 7 is 27, and 27 divided by 3 is 9. That's going to determine the repeats for when we create the bobbles. So that's why we want it to be a multiple of 3. And the reason that we add 7 is because on either side of the bobbles we have 3 extra stitches, And then we're also going to decrease by 2, and we need 2 extra chains at the beginning. It'll all make sense as we go along, but that's just a little explanation why we need 7 extra in addition to the multiple of 3. Now let's say that you measure round and you chain 32 and that fits your mug. 32 minus 7 is 25. 25 is not a multiple of 3. You can go down to 24 and then add 7 to that, so chain 31, but I would almost recommend going up to 27 and chaining 34 as well, because you would rather it be bigger so it can slip over the handle. You don't want it to be super tight to the point where you can't slip it over the handle. So I would recommend if your chain doesn't add up to a multiple of 3 plus 7, I would recommend going to the next highest number that is a multiple of 3. So if 27, if that's too small, could go up to 30, 33, etc., and then add 7 to that. So that's my recommendation. I know it's a little bit complicated, but hopefully the pattern will make a little more sense seeing it written out. But yes, I'm going to start with a chain of 34. I have my 34 chains, and for this cozy we're going to use half double crochets. And if you don't know what a half double crochet is, I'll show you how to do one. So we're going to work in the 3rd stitch from the hook. So a half double crochet, you yarn over, insert your hook. So remember 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 right there. So I'm going to insert my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 3. So yarn over, go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 3. And I'm going to do that across the entire row. And I'll meet you at the end of the row. Alright, so I'm about to work into my last stitch. So finish off the last stitch. So now I have 32 stitches, and if you're not sure, go ahead and count. 31, 32. Okay, so I have 32 stitches. Now I'm going to chain 2 and turn. Row 1 is done. And throughout this entire pattern, the chain 2 does not count as a stitch. So don't count that when you're counting your stitches. One other thing I recommend if you're a new crocheter, at the beginning of each round, place a marker in the first stitch that you work of the row. And the reason that this is helpful is because when you come to the end of the row, sometimes new crocheters don't pick up the stitches at the end. So for this one, I would actually place a stitch marker here in this first stitch. I'm not going to because I know where it is, but that's one thing that I recommend is placing, and you don't need a fancy stitch marker. It can be a safety pin, it can even be a scrap of yarn that you have laying around, or you can just quickly cut off and place in the stitch. That way you know where you're working your last stitch of the row so that your edges are nice and even. We're on row 2. The first thing we're going to do for row 2 is half double crochet 2 together, and this is just going to decrease our stitch count. So it's going to turn 2 stitches into 1, and we're going to do that on both ends. So I'll show you how to do a half double crochet 2 together. So you're going to start like a normal half double crochet. So yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop. Now instead of yarning over and pulling through all 3 loops, you're going to yarn over and you're going to insert your hook into the next stitch. So insert your hook, pull up a loop. Now I have 5 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to pull through all 5 loops. So I'll show you one more time. So I will yarn over, insert my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, go into the next stitch, insert my hook, pull up a loop, 5 stitches, yarn over, pull through all the loops on your hook. And that's how you half double crochet 2 together. And then I'm just going to half double crochet across the row, whatever stitch count that is for you, half double crochet until the last 2 stitches of the row. And now if you're doing the safety pin or stitch marker method, you would place the stitch marker in this first stitch that we did a half double crochet two together for. So this one right here, I don't know if you can see that very well, but this one, the first stitch that we worked, that's where your stitch marker would go. And I will meet you at the last 2 stitches of the row. All right, so I have one more stitch to work, so just a regular half double crochet. And now I have 2 stitches left in my row. So get my crochet hook out of the way, 1, 2, right there. So we're just going to do another half double crochet 2 together. So insert my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, insert my hook, and this one's a little fiddly sometimes since it's the end of the chain. Okay, pull up a loop, 5 loops, yarn over, pull through all 5. So then I'll chain 2 and I'll turn. All right, so we have decreased by 2. So now, if you want to go ahead and count your stitches, you should have 30 stitches now. 28, 29, 30. All right, perfect. Now we're on to row 3, and row 3 is really simple. You're just going to half double crochet across. So just one half double crochet in each stitch. And I will meet you at the end of the row. So I'm working my last stitch of row 3, and I'll chain 2, and I'll turn. So now we're on row 4, and row 4 is where we're going to start doing our bobbles. So the first stitch is just a half double crochet, and now the next stitch is a bobble stitch. And if you don't know how to do a bobble stitch, I will show you. So yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop. We're going to repeat that 3 times. Now, I know some bobbles use 4, but for this one I just used 3 because it's going on a mug. You don't want it to be super dramatic, at least I didn't. So I'm just going to repeat this 3 times. So yarn over, that's 2, that's 3. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 7. And then I'm going to half double crochet into 2 stitches. And then it's another bobble. So 1, 2, 3, yarn over, pull through. And then it's another half double crochet into 2 stitches. And then another bobble. 1, 2, 3. All right, so that is our repeat, 2 half double crochets and 1 bobble. You're going to repeat that until the last stitch of the row. Okay, so I'm on my last bobble. So 1, 2, 3, oh, caught it, it's all good, everything's fine. So now I'm on my last stitch of the row. I'm just gonna work 1 half double crochet. And then I'll chain 2 and I'll turn. All right, so we have our cute little bobbles now. I think they look awesome. I really like how this pattern turned out. So if you're wondering why we had to chain a multiple of 3 plus 7, I'll take a moment now that we've worked through this to explain why we did that. I started by chaining 34. And then when I came back around, I had 32 stitches. So that's 2 extra that I had to chain at the beginning. Now we decreased by 2 in row 2, so that's another 2 lost. So now that's 4 extra chains that we have to start with. The repeat for the bobble is 3 stitches. So we want to make sure that this is nice and even around the entire mug. So the repeat is 3. Which is why it has to be a multiple of 3. However, we have 3 extra stitches on the sides of those repeats, right? We have our half double crochet at the beginning, our 1 bobble stitch, and a half double crochet at the end. So we needed to account for 2, 4, 7 extra stitches, and then a multiple of 3 so that they're nice and even. I hope that makes a little more sense why we had to do that weird chain amount, but I hope that that makes a little more sense if you're watching this while reading the pattern, why we had to do that. So I hope that explains it a little bit. Okay, moving on. Row 5 is just the same as row 3. We're just going to half double crochet across the entire row. So I will meet you at the end of the row. Okay, so I'm at the last stitch of the row. Just gonna work my half double crochet, chain 2, and turn. Congrats, you've now completed your baubles for the mug cozy. Okay, so now it's pretty simple. We're on row 7. We're just going to half double crochet across, chain 2, and turn. So I will meet you at the end of row 7. Okay, so I finished row 7. I'm going to chain 2 and turn. And now we want to increase. The way we're going to increase is just by placing 2 half double crochets in 1 stitch. So I will half double crochet, and then I will half double crochet into that same stitch that we just worked into. Insert my hook. There we go. Now I'm going to half double crochet until the last stitch of the row. So I will meet you at the last stitch. Finishing my last few stitches here. Alright, now I'm in my last stitch, so I'm just going to repeat what I did at the beginning of the row. I'm going to half double crochet, and then half double crochet again into that same stitch. Then I'll chain 2 and I'll turn. Now we're on our last row, which is just half double crochet all the way across. So I will meet you at the end of row 9. Alright, so I am working into my last stitch, which again kind of hidden because it's a stitch that we added. Make sure that you're counting your stitches. So at the end of this row, you should have 32 stitches. So make sure that you're counting, and it should have this kind of shape where it's almost like I don't know, like a bow tie almost, where the tops are longer than the middle. So that's the kind of shape we're going for. So I finished my last stitch, and actually you're not going to chain after your last stitch. So make sure you count. You have 32 stitches across. Now we're going to join them together. And I tried to explain this as best as I could. So I will show you here. You're going to turn your work so you're working into the sides of the stitches, and almost like you're working a border. And I didn't chain. We're just going to continue to use our working yarn. We're going to insert our hook into the corner, so of the side of the stitch that we just worked, and a stitch behind it, so all the way in the top there. So you should have something that kind of looks like that. So you have the side of the stitch behind and the side of the stitch that you just worked. So now we're just going to slip stitch together to join them. So I'm going to pull up a loop, and then instead of yarning over, I'm just going to pull through. So I'll show that one more time. So I have my stitch here that I just worked. I fold the 2 sides together. I insert my hook into the side of the stitch that I just worked, and the corner of the side behind. I pull up a loop, pull up a loop, and slip stitch. And now I'm going to do that again into the row below. So insert your hook into the side of the row below and the stitch behind, and then slip stitch. Now I'm going to chain one, and I'm going to cut my yarn and pull through. So now we've joined those together. And there you go. All right, so now they are joined together. And if you wanted to make this a little sturdier, when you weave in your ends, I'll show you, you can kind of go back and forth on the inside to make it look, or make it a little bit sturdier. Now we're going to repeat this process on the bottom. And I'm just going to use my tail because it's only 2 stitches, so I have enough there. So we finished our last row on this side. I'm going to take it and flip it over this way. All right, and now we're going to repeat the same thing on the bottom. So all I did, this was the row that we finished here. I just flipped it over so that now this is on the bottom of the cozy is on the right side. That way we're working right to left. And I'm actually just going to use my tail for this since it's only 2 stitches. So I'm gonna yarn over, kind of, insert my hook into the corner, grab those 2 loops there. So I have 2 loops there. And then I'm going to insert my hook into the other corner behind it. So now I have 4 loops on my, or I guess 5 loops on my hook. Then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to yarn over and pull through. If I can shimmy that in there, okay. And then I'm going to slip stitch. So just pull that through. And then repeat for the row below, or I guess this would be above. So I'm going to insert my hook into the side of the stitch below, and then insert my hook again into the side of the stitch behind it, pull up a loop, and slip stitch, chain 1, and pull through. And the chain 1 is just so that you have like a little knot making it stay together. So there we go. So now, dun da da dun, you've finished your little cozy. Isn't it super cute? And then I'll show you how to weave in the ends. So I wove in the ends for one side, and I'll show you how to weave in the ends for the other side. So I flipped this inside out. So we want to weave in our ends on the inside of the cozy. And I'm going to bring the yarn in from the middle because that's where we ended. We don't want a weird loop on the outside. So I will just take my yarn needle and pulling this to the inside, I'm going to go up the sides of one side, so going vertically up. What other way is up? I don't know. Anyway, then I'm going to come across, I'm going to weave in across. Ooh. Doesn't really like that. So I'll come across, pull that through, and then I'm going to go down the other side. So coming in and picking up some loops on the other side. That way it just kind of holds together a little bit better. It's a little more reinforced. And then you can just go across the closest row and just finish weaving in those ends. All right, so that should be good. Just kind of straighten that out a little bit. And then I will snip that. Okay, and there you go. There's the finalized mug cozy. And we'll just flip it right side out. Ta-da! Now to put the mug cozy on your mug, I usually hook it to the bottom of the handle and then kind of just slip it over like that. And there we go. There's your finished little mug cozy, and I think it's super cute with the little bobble detail. These are two, I think, pretty standard mug sizes, and this was the same amount. This, for some reason, this one stretched out a little bit more, but as you can see, they're the same number of rows, same hook size, same yarn, although this one seems to be a little bit thinner for some reason. Just part of the beauty of 1 pound yarn, right? I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you try this project out yourself. Like I said, it's a very quick and easy project that doesn't require very much time or effort. And the written pattern will be linked down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, and if you want to see more tutorials or kind of just follow me in my knitting, crocheting, and crafting journey, then make sure to subscribe so that you can catch my future videos. I think that's it for this video, so I will see you in my next one. Goodbye!